Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. October 4th, 2017.
105 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, I have a fresh new column up. You can go to WRKO.com. Kuhner's Corner. Massachusetts Democrats insult Las Vegas victims. Seth Moulton, Catherine Clark, all the Moonbats refusing to even stand for a moment's silence to honor the dead and the injured in Las Vegas. Absolutely disgraceful. I expose Seth Moulton. I expose Catherine Clark. I expose these people for really spitting upon the memory of those that died. Please, if you can, read it. Pass it on to as many people as you can. We need to shame these Moonbats once and for all. 617-266-6868. Okay. Was Stephen Paddock radicalized? Now, before I get to that all-important question, yesterday at the briefing, the press briefing given by the Las Vegas police sheriff, they added at least another piece to the puzzle. So, why did it take 72 minutes from the time the massacre took place to when the SWAT team finally breached the room? Why 72 minutes? According now to the police chief, they had to methodically go up floor by floor by floor, clear out each floor, because you don't know if he's a lone shooter, if he's got other people helping him stationed on different levels or different floors of the hotel. So they had to take their time and methodically go up. We've now learned that Paddock had installed cameras, one in the peephole of the door to see who was coming in, as well as one on a service cart, a food service cart that was strategically placed just outside of his door. So he could see when the SWAT team would arrive, so he would eventually be able to blow his brains out, to kill himself. Apparently, a Mandalay Bay security guard went in first to see had they cleared out the 32nd floor. What has now come out is not only was this security guard shot, and that's when they knew there was nobody else on the floor except for Stephen Paddock, but the reason why they sent the security guard and the reason why they took a little longer than they normally would was because he had stopped shooting. For whatever reason, he stopped shooting. So he's going on this rampage. He's massacring people for about 9 minutes, almost 10 minutes. He's picking them off, allegedly, running from one window to the other, one window to the other, one window to the other. But then he just stops. Now, it's not as if there aren't more people he could have shot. There are. He just stops. The security guard then comes on the 32nd floor. He obviously sees the security guard, shoots the security guard through the door, wounds the security guard, and that's when eventually the SWAT team moved in. Roll it, Brittany.
The SWAT team had to arrive first at the Mandalay Bay before they could take any action. As I mentioned earlier, there was a very heroic security guard who was shot during the search for that suspect. That security guard went up to the room. He was advancing towards the room when the suspect fired through the door at the security guard and struck him. He was able to provide additional information to the police on exactly which room that we were looking at. However, at that time, it's important to note that the shooting had stopped. We're considering it a barricade at that point because it's no longer an active shooter. We're not hearing any further shots. The floors had already been evacuated of the guests. The suspect was now isolated and contained within a room. At the point that the SWAT team made their decision based on when it was appropriate to enter. I want to make it clear again to you that while there was that slight delay, the suspect was no longer firing into the crowd.
That's another thing I find bizarre. Whatever, unexplained, unanswered. Just to me, again, as I'm listening to this, why? Why did he stop? You see, Initially, let me tell you, when the story first broke, here's exactly how I tried, process the information. Okay, he's there, he's raining down murder and mayhem upon these people. SWAT eventually moves up. He sees SWAT moving up. Before they breach the door, boom, he blows his brains out. But now, the story's not different, but here's now the fuller picture of the story. So, from 10:09 to 10:10, from 10:09 or 10:10 to about 10:20, you're slaughtering everybody at that concert venue. You still have plenty of ammo. It's not like you ran out of ammo. They found ammo. They found a ton of ammo. He could have kept shooting. They found 23 guns. He had more than enough firepower to continue just raining down hellfire upon these people. But he doesn't. Why? Why? And then what happens in that room from, let's say, the end of 10:20, whatever, after the initial 9-10 minutes, gunfire, to 70 minutes, 60 minutes later, when the security guard comes, he's shot, and then the SWAT team eventually moves in. Why the break? Why that long interlude? I mean, I don't know, but to me, right away, at this point, you've killed God knows how many. With 58 now, we know, but at that point, you've got bodies everywhere. You've got hundreds of people injured. Why would you stop? At this point, you just keep going. Am I wrong? 617-266-6868. So now listen to the ultimate. This is the ultimate question. What motivated Paddock to do what he did? Remember, ISIS has now doubled down. It's very unusual for them. They have come out again and said, I'm telling you, he was an agent of the caliphate, a soldier of the caliphate. So was he an ISIS agent? Was he some crazy Bernie supporter like the one that shot up those congressmen in Northern Virginia? Was he truly unhinged and crazy? Was he psychotic? Listen now to the sheriff for the first time open the door to the possibility he may have been radicalized. Roll it, Brittany.
You heard me say that we're comfortable that we have the suspect in custody, but something more may come of that investigation. And I want to understand the motivation that you describe, okay, to prevent any future incidents. And, did this person get radicalized unbeknownst to us? And we want to identify that source.
Now, it's almost like he's throwing the question out there, but I just thought it was interesting that he even threw that out there. My suspicion is, just a suspicion now, is that they probably have found something, literature in one of his homes, or something on his computer, or something that now is starting to lead them believe, you know what, maybe he just didn't snap. Maybe he just didn't wake up one morning and say, what the hell? Let's just start killing people at a concert. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. John in New Hampshire. Go ahead, John.
Kuhner, man, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, John?
Doing well. Listen, I just want to point out one thing. The two windows that were broken, there's a military reason why you would do that. If you have, just think about a line of foxholes. When I was in the Army, they taught us about warfare fought from foxholes. And what you do is you overlap your field of fire with the foxhole to your left and the foxhole to your right. So you've got multiple foxholes that have concentrated fire in crisscrossing zones. If it was just a single shooter coming out of that window, there would be no reason to bust out two windows and run back and forth between the two windows. All you're doing is wasting your time. You're shooting at the same target. The only reason why you would have two windows knocked out is so that you could have two separate shooters and have overlapping fields of fire to maximize the kill zone.
John, look, you obviously know a lot more than I do on this, but let me just play devil's advocate, because this is what I've heard some in the media say, and I just want to see you address it. They argue that the reason why he blew out 2 windows, okay, with this hammer-like device, and then had the tripods with the scope set up on both those windows, the sniper's nests, is because, you shoot from one angle, right? Yep. So people start running the other way. Then you run to the other side because they're now running away from you. So you go to the other side. You mow more down. Then they run the other direction. So then you go to the other sniper's nest. You see what I mean? So they say that's why he kept jumping back and forth. What do you say to that argument?
Negative. Completely. If you were to lay this out on a sheet of paper, the difference between the firing angle of the first window versus the firing angle of the second window to the target, it's to the people on the ground being shot at. That's the same general direction, the direction of the hotel. That argument is completely wrong.
So, John, in your mind, you think there's no question about it. There had to be a second shooter.
Not only do I think that there had to be a second shooter, I think that the people who run Mandalay Bay with all their cameras have already handed that over to the FBI. The FBI already knows there's multiple shooters, and this is why they stopped shooting. Their surveillance camera picked up the police action. They stopped shooting to give themselves time to clear out of the place and leave the dead patsy behind.
Interesting. John, great call. Don't be a stranger, John. Interesting. Very. You know what, Brittany? I don't want to put you on the spot because you're talking to me off the air. She's looking at me, giving me a funny face. He's almost where you are in terms of your theory. Now, she's just got a theory, because we don't have a complete picture, right? So everybody's got a theory on this.
Ever since I saw the picture of him yesterday, I've been questioning really what happened in that hotel room. That's all I have to say.
And you're not a conspiracy theorist.
No, but I keep telling you, we joke about it now. I'm I feel like I'm turning into one because I just really honestly don't believe what they're telling us. And I feel like, every time they have these press conferences, I'm glued to the television. I can't wait to hear what they have to say. And it's every time they do 2 or 3 every day. And there's nothing that's coming out of these press conferences. And there's plenty of stuff online and everything. But once, our law enforcement person sent us the picture, I'm I don't know about this. I don't know if it was just him. I said originally I think there was another shooter from what I heard. And then I saw the body cam videos. I'm no, it sounds like one shooter. So I'm just very confused on all of this.
617-266-6868. Jim in Boston. Go ahead, Jim.
God bless you and your family. Exactly what John said I was going to get on. But 2 weeks ago on Fox, I heard him saying something about ISIS had a plan on different cities. I don't know, you can check back on Fox.
Yes, they did. They clearly were vowing to hit the Las Vegas Strip. It was a huge issue for ISIS.
But exactly what he touched on. The guy shot for 10 or 12 minutes, and he stopped, and then he kills himself. It doesn't add up. If he was going to kill himself, he could have took out thousands and thousands and thousands. God bless he didn't. But like you said, there was no sweat in the body. I'm kind of thinking that guy killed the guy. Maybe it was 2 shooters, and that's my theory, and the guy kind of escaped. You know what I'm saying?
Jim.
I don't know what you think about that.
Look, Jim, it's very interesting. That's all I have to say. And look, honestly, I don't want to, again, what Brittany tells me, off air is off air, but she's been saying something similar to that. She's been saying it again and again, saying it just, Jeff, this doesn't add up. Nothing about this adds up. And so her theory has been just a theory. She's not trying to pin it on anybody. She's just honestly looking at the evidence and saying, look, we're all guessing at this point. But she's been saying that. Was he a patsy? Is he the fall guy? 617-266-6868. Let's squeeze in one more. Russ, you're up next. Go ahead, Russ.
Jeff,
Hi,
first
Russ.
of all, this is the one thing that I have to understand before I go on to say what I was about to say. When the SWAT team arrived, was the alleged shooter already dead?
When the SWAT team, when they breached the room?
Yes.
Yes.
He was already dead?
Yes.
Okay. So if he was already dead, it is possible that the real shooter escaped out of the room before the SWAT team got there because that's the only explanation. If you say that this body, if the experts say this person had been dead for a while, then he wasn't the shooter. It had to be someone else.
Russ, let me ask you. I mean, look, you're a military guy. You served in Vietnam. The two blown out windows, the sniper's nest. You know what it takes to, fire a machine gun on a crowd. By the way, that was what, a quarter mile? Almost half a mile away, the distance, what it takes to pull something like this off. What's your theory, Russ?
Well, Jeff, the one thing is that who definitely was the shooter, okay? And who was his accomplices? There had to be accomplices. There's no question about it. There's no way that any one individual could pull this whole thing off by themselves, along with getting several suitcases of weapons delivered. There's no question that there's others covering this up. And again, we haven't definitely determined the fact that the dead person was the shooter. We really don't know that yet. Now, I would imagine by now all the surveillance cameras must be in the hands of the police, and they've got to be reviewing these things. And if there was a second shooter, it should show up in one of the cameras in the hotel.
I agree. No, I agree, Russ, and thank you for that call. Well, look, I think this is going to be the $64,000 question. It's now come out, according to the New York Post, that not only did he have a camera surveilling, the outside, the hallway, but he had an internal camera in the hotel room, allegedly filming himself as he was committing the atrocity. So if there's a camera, and they say the FBI has it, that they have this footage. So if there's a camera that was inside the hotel room, and that's what the New York Post is reporting, I'm just going by what they're reporting, then we should know, was there one shooter, two shooters? We can see him, manning the sniper's nest. So all of this hopefully will be answered soon. 617-266-6868. More with your calls next. 128 here on the great WRKO. As always, you can text us 680-680. This is from 978. Jeff, shooter was wearing rubber gloves like he would if he was trying to get away after the deed. Interesting. Let's go to Bud in Waltham. Go ahead, Bud.
Hey, how are you, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, Bud?
Doing well. I have a couple of questions. I have a number of friends who are retired from Intel, special ops, things like that. This guy could have been radicalized, sure, but he could have been turned in a way in which he appeared to be radicalized by he could have been handled essentially to think he was doing this for some other reason than for what he was actually doing. There could have even been a ploy with his girlfriend. She could have been involved in activities, and she could have been managed into drawing him into this gambit. So you could say this: a handler who might have been doing the work for ISIS could have actually approached him and encouraged him to do it, not because of that, but maybe because, like you mentioned, he was a crazy Bernie Sanders person or something like that. It could have been pretext that could have been used to handle and manage him and compromise him. And that's kind of an interesting thing just to think about, because there are a lot of gaps in this story, and there are some very unusual things. The rubber gloves, for instance, is an interesting one, because now when you examine the body, you might not see the gunpowder in the right places, stuff like that.
But I think it's fascinating. I think your point is very, very fascinating. Look, and just to bounce off of what you're saying, and thank you for that call, I find the girlfriend just a very bizarre character in all this. Nothing adds up. Nothing. So she's conveniently out of the country. She says because he got her a cheap ticket. But then why would he wire her $100,000? To me, what that smacks of is, I know some people say, oh, that's his way of saying goodbye to her. I think that's his way of buying her off. Or her demanding that he send her money or whatever. Then the big piece of information, he really wanted to target a bigger country music festival the week before, literally 5.5 miles north of the Mandalay Bay. And he was looking to rent rooms, several rooms, in fact, from a condominium overlooking that venue. But he couldn't book those rooms. They were, sold out or whatever. So he had to delay and postpone his attack for a week later. What does that tell me? He wanted to kill country music listeners. For whatever reason. Concert number 1, can't do it. Let's do concert number 2 the following week. To me, what I think the victims here, the target, are Trump-supporting conservatives. That's why he wanted to target those country music listeners. So, if he's radicalized, is he radicalized on behalf of ISIS or on behalf of Antifa? 617-266-6868. The plot thickens. Let's take it to Eric Heidrich. Sorry, Evan. My bad. Evan Heidrich in the newsroom. What's the latest update? Evan.
And I know that she don't know anything as well like us. She was sent away. She was sent away so that she will be not there to interfere or put his body.
137 here on the great WRKO. Okay, that is one of the sisters of Mary Lou Danley, the girlfriend of Stephen Paddock, and she was interviewed in Las Vegas saying that her sister knows nothing, knew nothing, has nothing to do at absolutely anything involved with the Las Vegas massacre, and that he sent her to the Philippines, allegedly wired $100,000 just to get her out of the way. Do you buy it? The Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Bill Kelly Financial Services. Do you believe Mary Lou Danley? She's, by the way, now brought back to the United States. She's being interrogated or interviewed by the FBI as we speak. Do you think she had a role? Did she play a part in the Las Vegas massacre? If you believe the answer is yes, she's involved some way, text the letter A to 680-680. If you believe the answer is no, she really was just utterly ignorant and oblivious to what took place around her, text the letter B to 680-680. As always, you can vote online at WRKO.com. Brittany, what are the poll results thus far?
80% yes, 20% no.
What does your female intuition tell you, Brittany?
Oh, she's got something to do with this. There's no way that you don't know how many guns your spouse has. And how does her sisters know that she was sent away so that she wouldn't be involved and she wouldn't interfere in what he did? I think that's a little telling. I think she knew something was going to happen. And, you know, the money was wired to the Philippines, so she must know something.
617-266-6868. Aaron in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Aaron.
Good afternoon, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure. How are you, Aaron?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Just a couple quick points on this. One, does it throw up a red flag to you that her family said that she has a clear conscience on this, the girlfriend? Because you can say you don't know anything about it. You can say you're in shock. But to say you have a clear conscience, doesn't that mean you would have had to feel some kind of guilt in the first place, which means you would have had to know something in the first place? It just that every time a family member speaks, whether it's his brother or the girlfriend's family, something is getting more fishy about this. And my second point is, there is no way this man was insane because, it was insane to do what he did. But if he worked for Lockheed, my dad worked for Lockheed for 37 years as an engineer. To get the security clearance just to go in his own facility, let alone all the military bases he had to travel to, you go through an extensive psychological exam for that. And I don't mean just hey, you're planning on killing someone. They will know if something is wrong in your head, and they will know everything about every aspect of your life. If there was something wrong with this guy back then, that test would have pegged something. So for him to do what he did now, he had to have been radicalized or something would have had to have changed in the last couple of years in his mindset. And someone had to have influenced him somehow. This isn't something that was a long stemming problem. I think it's political, but it seems like every time we get a piece of the puzzle to this, it gets more fishy and more fishy.
Aaron, look, that's exactly my sentiments, and thank you for that call. Look, here's what we do know. People who worked with him at Lockheed Martin, okay, they say maybe, he's an accountant, a little standoffish, not the warmest guy, not the most gregarious guy, but they go, perfectly normal. Just normal, functioning guy, did his job. The neighbors, every single one of them, they go, he was a high roller, he was a real estate investor, he had a business with his brother, he sold it off, he liked to go cruising. No one says, he's mentally ill, he's psychotic, he's schizophrenic, he's whatever it is. In fact, it's the opposite. Now, what we do know, this is another development, is apparently beginning in June, at the same time, allegedly, just what a coincidence, as he apparently was buying and stockpiling all of these weapons, right? Starting in June, he goes on this huge buying spree. So he's loading up on AR-15s, AK-47s, AR-10s, thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition, explosives. He's going crazy. He apparently was also prescribed by his doctor, Dr. Winkler, according to the Las Vegas Review Journal, 50 tablets, 10 milligrams of diazepam. Diazepam is, Valium. It's in that tree. It's anti-anxiety. It tends to be a sedative. However, according to multiple journals in Finland, New Zealand, Australia, they've done studies on this. They say there are, for some people, not all people, but for some people, there are side effects. One of those side effects is you tend to exhibit a lot more aggressive behavior. So, is there a link to him taking diazepam, and one of the side effects is he wants to start murdering people? Now, let me tell you honestly, I mentioned this in my column. We have way too many people taking way too many of these mind-altering drugs. That being said, I don't think the diazepam did it, and I'll tell you why. My understanding, because when I read that story, I called up my doctor. Now, I'm not saying this doctor is the world's greatest expert, but, knows a little bit about, drugs, prescription drugs. Usually the side effect of diazepam, here's what I've been told, is that, yes, for some people it will lead to rage or bouts of aggressiveness, but it's like a spasm. In other words, just whatever. I want a cheeseburger and a french fry. Okay, how would you like that? I told you medium rare. And then I told you medium rare. Oh, okay, buddy, take it easy. In other words, it's on the spot. It's not something that's sustained, a kind of aggression where you're just seething on the inside and you're just, planning to murder people. In other words, it erupts, but then it subsides. It erupts and then it subsides. To do what he did took months of planning. It was meticulous. It was premeditated. It was very well thought out, very well crafted. He bought all the guns. He bought all the ammo. He made sure he had the hotel. He scoped the site. He got, he knew how to put a tripod together, a scope on it, a sniper's nest. I mean, this guy, he knew how to set up the cameras. I mean, he knew how to put explosives together. I have veterans who were talking to me yesterday after the show saying, Jeff, I've been in the military 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know how to put together an explosive bomb. So what for him to pull this off, if he is the one that did it, would take a knowledge, an expertise, a planning that is months and months. It's extremely intense. I don't think it's diazepam. Just my opinion. Phil in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Phil.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
It doesn't smell right. And the reason why I say that is I've been a gun owner and a shooter for over 35 years, NRA high competition and all that. I think he was a black marketeer in firearms. He found a way to get real quick money through probably a Filipino connection, and I think he got set up. And they told him where to bring the goods and what location, and then they pounced on him, and they completed their their crime right on the spot.
Phil.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's
you
what I
rang my
think.
bell with that one, Phil.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Phil, now hold on. I mean, this is, so, it explains, almost like they say, the caricature. So much ammunition.
Now,
so many high-end guns.
I know, quite a few people. We all shoot competitively and all that, and there's nobody in my group with high-power weapons that would amass anything like that. It's sort of like a hodgepodge of firearms this guy purchased from the description they give. And I'm saying it sounds like a shopping list. And that's exactly, what it looks like. And to put all this together in the hotel room, it's as if they were going to do a gun deal there. And he shows up, they blow his brains out, and they set the room up for the crime. And it just doesn't fit that this guy was that type of a person to do that crime. I think he was a black marketeer with him and his girlfriend in their connection with the Philippines, and they have a lot of insurgency problems there too. So, and now she's, quote, she has no guilt, but the family must have known something of what was going on. Where did he get all his money? I don't care how much real estate you buy. He wasn't a big real estate dealer the way they try to make him to be. I think he was getting his money from black market.
Phil, I got to tell you, this may be the call, man. Phil, thank you for that call. Look, it explains a lot. He was a high roller. I mean, he gambled. He gambled a lot. They knew him at the Mandalay Bay. They knew him at Reno. They knew him everywhere.
Well,
he played video poker on the high end, like $125 a bet. What is it? He had these cards. I forget what you call them. Basically, the VIP cards. Like he was like in other words, he's a big spender. So it explains the cash coming in. You have ISIS, which is in the southern Philippines, through Abu Sayyaf. ISIS is waging a Muslim insurgency in the Philippines. In fact, they're killing Christians and ethnically, religiously cleansing certain provinces in the southern Philippines. They have guns. They like to sell guns. They need to buy guns. So that establishes, in some sense, an ISIS connection. And then the patsy part, because Brittany made a very good point as you were talking, Phil. There's a big gun show this weekend, right, Brittany?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's this week.
This week or this weekend.
Yeah. You can see the sign up, October 7th, October 8th, big gun show. So, he's bringing up all the 10 suitcases over multiple days, with ammunition, firearms. And you're right, Phil. He had handguns. He had semi-automatics. He had AK-47s. I like the term, a hodgepodge. He had a little bit of everything. Because it doesn't make sense. Like, look, if I'm going to wipe out and massacre, 500 people, I don't need to bring 23 guns. 2 AK-47s will do it and a ton of ammo. I don't need to have handguns and rifles and, you're right. So either they fooled him into thinking, hey, we're going to be at the gun show, or this is something for the gun show and bring everything there, and they set him up. Or, as you said, Phil, he's some kind of a gun dealer. I love the theory. I got to tell you, I love it. 617-266-6868. More with your calls. Next. 154 here on the great WRKO. Mark on the North Shore. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I think Phil might be smoking a little too much crack. That conspiracy theory... I'm a police officer. We go to houses all the time where people have dozens and dozens of high-end guns, and a lot of times they have guns that are better than the ones we have, and that's even on the tactical side. So I literally have watched the coverage for a max of 30 minutes since it started coming on, because the stupid comments and the unrealistic questions and all the stuff, it'll shake out after the police, the Las Vegas police will do their investigation. All the stuff from the beginning of the coverage to the end of it is not even going to resemble what actually happened. But just to the point that some guy set him up, a UFO came down with all these guns, he got this guy. It's crazy. The guy's got a problem, had a problem. He had a plan, PO'd at the world, and he executed the plan. It's not uncommon for people to have dozens of high-end guns. I find nothing strange about that. The incident as a whole is definitely off kilter, where he's killing all these innocent people, and he planned it out, no question. Explosives, go on the internet. Kids are making explosives now. ISIS is making stuff from the internet. It's not really a stretch.
Mark, what do you say? There are reports, and this is coming from the the Las Vegas PD, that he had over $100,000 worth of firepower in his multiple homes. That, in other words, he invested so much in all those guns. Have you? I mean,
not a stretch. Now, the guy, he's a wealthy guy.
Yes.
He just wired $100,000 to the Philippines. Now, as far as gun prices, you can go buy a high-end .308 sniper rifle. The scope alone on the high end, if you want the top of the line stuff, you can go anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 and another few thousand on a rifle. You can spend $5,000 to $10,000 on one rifle. So if he had 10 of those, it's not that far. It's plus the ammo and the magazines and the sling and whatever else you want to put on it. The average rifle for a civilian to buy is going to be a couple $1,000s for the rifle alone. It's not, and I also work for a gun company. It's not that hard to do. That's what people are missing.
Mark, I'm just curious. What's your theory? I know you want for the fall the facts to come out, but so far, from everything that you've seen, what's your theory about what happened?
A guy that is suicidal, wants to be taken out in the end. He knows he's going to get shot. He came up with a plan. Probably did his research. You can buy videos out there on how to do tactics and all this stuff. He just decided he wanted to do this. He obviously planned it out because I know he looked at another festival, picked this one, planned it out, executed the plan.
What was his motive? Why?
Jeff, I don't know if anyone will ever know that, to be perfectly honest. We can speculate with conjecture and everything else all day long, but we're never going to know on that unless I know they said that there was a note. I don't even know if that's a true story. Unless it's spelled out in that note, unless we can resurrect him from the dead and ask him, that's probably the only way we're going to know.
Mark, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Howie on the South Shore. Go ahead, Howie.
Howie, I have a different philosophy. First of all, was it mentioned that ISIS made that threat a while back to make a threat against us within the States?
Yes, they made a big threat, and they've doubled down twice, saying that this guy was an agent of ISIS.
And this guy could be ISIS's answer to the Manchurian candidate. I mean, I have to feel sincerely, the information's been scrubbed, so forth and so on. It just doesn't make sense. You had an earlier caller mention the Philippines, what's happening there with the Islamic situation. It's very possible that he was radicalized. ISIS has made that threat, months ago. They doubled down on it again. And I think possibly, hopefully, I'm not correct, but those within our power elite trying to hold that back to avoid panic in the States.
Howie, thank you very much for that call. Okay, coming up next, Trump now says maybe it's time to look at changing the gun laws. Will Trump convert and become an advocate for gun control? And if he does, will this blow up his base? Your calls, that story, next.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 2 o'clock.